They called him a genius, a legend, Detective Miles Corbin, the mind behind solving the century's most baffling crimes. But his autobiography, released after his death, revealed a truth far more sinister. How I Did Murders and Framed Innocent People. Was Corbin a hero, or a monster hiding in plain sight? Welcome back to Midnight Mysteries. Tonight, we dissect the chilling confession of a world-renowned detective, a man who used his brilliance not to solve crimes, but to commit them. Prepare for a descent into the twisted mind of Miles Corbin. Detective Miles Corbin was a name synonymous with justice. His sharp intellect, uncanny intuition, and meticulous methods had cracked cases that baffled even the most seasoned officers. Celebrated around the globe, Corbin's reputation preceded him. He was the man you called when the impossible needed solving. Throughout his career, Corbin had penned detailed accounts of his most famous cases, promising the world a glimpse into the mind of a master detective. However, he stipulated one condition: the autobiography was to be released only after his death. The world eagerly awaited the unveiling of his secrets, anticipating a testament to his unwavering commitment to justice. But what they received was a confession, a twisted chronicle of deceit and calculated malice. Upon Corbin's death, his autobiography, entitled How I Did Murders and Framed Innocent People, was released to the public. The world was stunned. The book wasn't a recounting of his triumphs, but a detailed step-by-step guide to his crimes. He described with cold precision how he meticulously planned and executed murders, leaving no trace of his involvement. But the real shock came with the revelation of how he framed innocent individuals, manipulating evidence and exploiting biases to ensure their conviction. The book detailed several high-profile cases that Corbin had supposedly solved, but now in his own words he revealed the horrifying truth. The wealthy businessman found guilty of poisoning his wife was innocent. Corbin had subtly altered the evidence, planting traces of the poison and manipulating witness testimonies to paint a picture of guilt. The quiet school teacher, convicted of a series of brutal assaults, was another pawn in Corbin's game. He had fabricated evidence, exploiting the teacher's eccentric personality to create a narrative of a disturbed individual. Corbin wrote with a chilling detachment, dissecting his own methods with an almost academic interest. He discussed the importance of understanding human psychology, exploiting societal prejudices, and mastering the art of misdirection. He reveled in the power he wielded, the ability to control lives and manipulate the justice system to his own twisted ends. The question on everyone's mind was, why? Why would a man so respected, so admired, confess to such heinous acts? The book offered no clear motive, only hints and fragmented insights into Corbin's psyche. He spoke of a deep-seated resentment towards the wealthy and powerful, a desire to expose the flaws in the justice system, and a perverse fascination with the darker aspects of human nature. Some speculated that he was driven by a god complex, believing himself to be above the law, a puppet master pulling the strings of justice and fate. Others believed he was simply a sociopath, devoid of empathy and driven by a thirst for control. The release of Corbin's autobiography sent shockwaves through the world. The justice system was thrown into chaos as investigators reopened the cases he had detailed in his book. Innocent individuals, wrongly convicted and imprisoned, were finally exonerated. The families of the victims, once grateful for Corbin's help, were now consumed by grief and outrage, forced to confront the horrifying truth that the real killer had walked free, celebrated as a hero. As investigators delved deeper into Corbin's life, they uncovered a pattern of disturbing behavior that had been overlooked or dismissed during his rise to fame. Whispers of his ruthlessness, his manipulative tendencies, and his unsettling fascination with true crime emerged from the shadows. Colleagues spoke of his detached demeanor, his tendency to isolate himself, and his unsettling gaze that seemed to pierce through them. Red flags that had been dismissed or rationalized were now glaringly apparent, painting a portrait of a man capable of unspeakable acts. The legacy of Miles Corbin was forever tarnished. He went from being a celebrated hero to a reviled villain, his name synonymous with betrayal and deceit. His story serves as a chilling reminder that appearances can be deceiving, that even those who appear to be the most virtuous can harbor the darkest secrets. But the question remains even now, was this just a confession, or the ultimate crime, the final manipulation from beyond the grave? The autobiography left many questions unanswered, and maybe this was just the beginning of another mystery from the great Detective Corbin. Now let's dive deeper into the life and mind of Miles Corbin, exploring the events that shaped him and the cases he twisted. Miles Corbin's early life and influences are key to understanding his later actions. He was born into a middle-class family, showing an exceptional intellect from a young age. He devoured books, particularly those on history, philosophy, and criminology. He excelled in school, but was often described as a loner, preferring the company of books to people. His fascination with crime began early, fueled by a collection of true crime novels and a morbid curiosity about the human capacity for violence. His father, a lawyer, instilled in him a strong sense of justice, emphasizing the importance of fairness and due process. However, Corbin also witnessed firsthand the flaws in the legal system, the biases and prejudices that could influence outcomes. This early exposure likely contributed to his later cynicism and his belief that the system could be manipulated. Corbin was influenced by classic crime novels like The Count of Monte Cristo and Crime and Punishment**. The path to law enforcement seemed a natural one for Corbin. Driven by a desire to understand the criminal mind and perhaps to control it, he pursued a career in law enforcement. He joined the police academy, excelling in his studies and demonstrating a natural aptitude for investigation. He quickly rose through the ranks, earning a reputation for his meticulousness and his ability to solve even the most complex cases. His colleagues admired his dedication, but also noted his detached demeanor and his tendency to work alone. He was soon picked up to become a detective, and he was given the hardest cases to solve, for example, the murder of a known mafia boss and the serial killer in 1980s, known as the Alphabet Killer. These were cases that Corbin cracked, making him a local and soon-to-be worldwide name. It was during his early years as a detective that the first cracks began to appear in Corbin's carefully constructed facade. He became increasingly frustrated with the limitations of the legal system, the bureaucratic red tape, and the perceived leniency towards criminals. He began to believe that the ends justified the means, that it was acceptable to bend the rules, even break them, to ensure that justice was served. This was, in his mind, true justice. He started small, fabricating minor evidence to strengthen a case, or exaggerating witness testimonies to sway a jury. But as he grew bolder, his methods became more extreme, and his sense of morality became increasingly distorted. That's how it all began, how he started his career in a twisted web of power and justice. He wanted to deliver the justice he had always dreamed, and the only way to do that was to write his own rules, not the books others had written for him. One of Corbin's most celebrated cases involved the death of a wealthy heiress, Eliza Thornton. Her husband, Charles, was the prime suspect, but the evidence was circumstantial. Corbin, convinced of Charles' guilt, began to build a case against him. He discovered that Charles had been having an affair and that he stood to inherit a vast fortune upon Eliza's death, but the evidence was not strong enough to secure a conviction. Corbin, unwilling to let Charles escape justice, took matters into his own hands. He obtained a sample of the poison used to kill Eliza and subtly planted it in Charles' study. He then manipulated a key witness, the family maid, to testify that she had seen Charles handling the poison. With this fabricated evidence, Corbin secured Charles' conviction. The public hailed him as a hero, but Corbin knew the truth. He had condemned an innocent man to prison. Corbin later was in charge of solving a string of murders happening all over the world, and even got the killer the nickname the Alphabet Killer. This killer would kill people based on a certain order, their names, and the places they were killed, in order of the alphabet. Corbin was close to cracking the case when his superior came to him. He told Corbin to pin the murder on a known sex offender and then be done with it. Corbin, as usual, was outraged. He had been tracking this killer for a very long time, and he was close to cracking the case. He begged and pleaded with his superior, but his superior would hear nothing of it. If Corbin did not follow those directions, he was said to be terminated from the case. So what did Corbin do? He followed his orders and framed the known offender so he wouldn't be terminated, and secretly followed clues to find out who the true Alphabet Killer was. He found out it was his superior, and the rest is history. The disappearance of Lily Stone, a local rising singer, was a haunting case. The circumstances surrounding the disappearance were complex, with no immediate suspects. Corbin focused on Lily's manager, Julian Hayes, who had a history of shady business dealings and a volatile relationship with Lily. However, he had a seemingly airtight alibi. Corbin, determined to bring Julian to justice, embarked on a campaign of harassment and intimidation. He pressured Julian's associates, threatened his family, and fabricated evidence to make it appear that he had lied about his whereabouts on the night of Lily's disappearance. The pressure eventually became too much for Julian, who broke down and confessed to Lily's murder. Again, Corbin was lauded for his tenacity and his unwavering commitment to solving the case. Nobody thought for a second that Corbin was the real killer. As the years passed, the burden of guilt weighed heavily on Corbin. He became increasingly isolated, haunted by the faces of the innocent people he had condemned. He sought solace in alcohol and prescription drugs, but nothing could ease his conscience. He knew that his actions had caused immense suffering, not only to the victims and their families, but also to the innocent individuals he had framed. It was from here that Corbin made the ultimate decision to write his life story, but to release it after death so he could deliver his side of justice. This is when the wheels really began to turn. As Corbin wrote and planned, he knew there was no going back from this, only forward. In his autobiography, Corbin revealed the full extent of his crimes, confessing to manipulating evidence, fabricating testimonies, and framing innocent individuals. He wrote with a chilling honesty, sparing no detail in his account of his descent into darkness. He admitted that he had become addicted to the power he wielded, the ability to control lives and manipulate the justice system to his own twisted ends. Corbin also tried to justify his actions, arguing that the legal system was flawed and that he was simply doing what was necessary to ensure that justice was served. He claimed that the innocent people he had framed were not truly innocent, that they were guilty of other crimes, or that they deserved to be punished for their moral failings. But his justifications rang hollow, failing to mask the deep-seated guilt and self-loathing that consumed him. The release of Corbin's autobiography sent shockwaves through the world, shattering the public's trust in the justice system and raising profound questions about the nature of truth and justice. The cases he had detailed in his book were reopened, and the innocent individuals he had framed were finally exonerated, but the damage had been done. Their lives had been irrevocably altered by Corbin's actions, and they would forever be haunted by the memory of their wrongful convictions. The whole world would be, now knowing that the justice system was not all what it was cut out to be. Even after his death, Miles Corbin remained an enigma. His motives remained unclear, his justifications unconvincing, and his actions unforgivable. His story serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power, the corrupting influence of ambition, and the fragility of the justice system. But perhaps the most haunting question of all is whether Corbin's confession was an act of redemption, or simply another calculated manipulation, a final twist in his twisted game. With new technology emerging into the world, such as AI, there is now a new case to look into. Now there is an AI model that thinks just like Miles Corbin, and the book may have given people a deeper dive into his mindset. So is the story over, or just beginning? Time will only tell.